Hey everybody, welcome to Ron's Computer Videos. Hey, I just wanted to maybe share something neat that I saw out on the 68K MLA forums the other day. User Andrew has come up with a new project that he's calling Magic SD for the SCSI to SD. And the overview of this project is that what it allows you to do is you can write his specialized image onto an SD card, and what you'll end up with are two partitions, 512 megabyte classic Mac partitions, that allow you to just mount them directly inside your operating system, inside your emulator, so like Mini VMac or Basilisk 2 or whatever your emulator of choice is for those classic machines. And you can edit those partitions and then just take your SD card and drop it in your SCSI to SD and boot off of it. And I don't know about you, but maybe that has a little bit of utility. It would be kind of neat to be able to just very quickly test things, especially if you're like, okay, I'm going to test like a custom operating system setup. And, I don't want to go through the whole rigmarole of, especially if you have the older units, that I'm going to back it up and then restore it and kind of go back and forth on those type of things, because it is time consuming, and this does have the possibility of kind of saving you some time if you're going to do some troubleshooting and kind of maybe try to build some custom Mac OS partitions, or you just want to test something. I mean, honestly, it's pretty straightforward. There's two partitions. One is set up as a system partition, and by default he has System 701, which granted is not going to boot every Mac under the sun, but it's a great proof of concept. Or if you've got like an older machine, definitely 701 will get you where you want to go. And then there is a secondary partition that's basically just set up as a blank partition, as a space or scratch space for you to add whatever applications or anything that you want to do. So what I thought we would do is go ahead and it's a very small download, 2.8 megabytes or 2.18 megabytes. And what we're going to go ahead and do is let's go ahead and let's get this downloaded. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put this on an SD card and we're going to customize it and then boot. Now, one thing I will tell you is in my testing with this, you definitely do not want to mess with those partitions, and in terms of like removing them from the card, putting them back on the card, those type of things, because Andrew will tell you right there in the notes, like, don't do that. It's just going to lead to heartache. So, all right, I have a 2 gigabyte SD card in my USB flash thing here. So let's go ahead and go out to the desktop. And as you saw just a second ago, I just extracted that zip file to the desktop of my PC here. I mean, it's basically going to be the same kind of thing on a Mac or whatever your platform of choice is. But let me go ahead, and there's the image file. And for sure, that is my SD card. So let's go ahead and flash this. And this is going to take a second. The instructions say you need at least a 2 gigabyte SD card. So this is probably going to take a second. So let's go ahead and fast forward through this. And you can wait while it validates, but I have got like a life to live. So we're going to go ahead and finish that up. All right, so let's take a look-see at our instructions here. And it says the instructions are to write the SD card write the image to an SD card at least 1.2 gigabytes in size using DD or Baluna Etcher. How do you say it? Etcher. I just call it Etcher. That's what we just did. Hey, great. So now step 2 is configure the SCSI to SD device so it only uses one physical drive with 512 byte sector size and 10,302 as the start sector. So I have my handy dandy SCSI to SD 5.5 hooked up, and let's go ahead and we're going to load load the setup from the device just so you can see how I have mine configured. And as you can see, I have one device set to System 6, to SCSI ID 6 because I just wanted to boot first. Sector size 512 bytes. and the start sector is 10,302. Looking good. This is what they asked for. So if your test device wasn't configured this way, go ahead and configure it this way, and then make sure to go ahead and save your configuration of the device, whatever your version is, making sure that we don't have any other devices set up. So that looks good. All right, so we have our SD card created, and let's go ahead and let's go to this PC, and hey, there it is, Magic SD. But let me go ahead and I'm going to disconnect and reconnect just to make sure that we get everything loaded correctly. Hey, what do you know? All right, and there's our two files. There is a text file here that has some information kind of about the sort of what that guide said. Just, you want to kind of leave that alone. And like I also said, the instructions say that you have to leave the files kind of in place. You do not want to try to copy these to your machine and edit them and then copy them back, because it will put them in a different place on the SD card and it won't boot. It won't work. I found out the hard way. Don't do that. They tell you not to do that, but I like breaking things, so here we are. All right, so let's go ahead. We've got our stuff burned to our SD card. We've got our SCSI SD configured. And again, this has only got System 701 on it, which might be an issue for some users. So let's go ahead and let's bring up Basilisk 2. And I have an image that I've pre-baked already that has 7.6.1 on it, and I've got the bootable or the boot disk image from the SD card. You know what? And before we do that, they kind of want you to try to maybe do some things with Mini VMAC. I've got my Mini VMAC set up. I can actually take this and just drag it over. And lo and behold, hey, looky there. It just booted right up. So it does work. You get a 701 image there. Pretty handy. So if you wanted to play around with this in VMAC, you could customize it in there. But what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to use Basilisk 2, and we have our two images set up, and this is basically just, whatever settings you normally use for your Basilisk setup. But anyway, I have my 761 boot image set up here, and then I have the SD card. This is the location with that boot image that you just saw boot in Mini VMAC. All right, let's start her up. Well, it wasn't too exciting because it happened off screen, but as I can reboot it and show you again. There you go. Hey, it instantly booted. All right. So what we got is we have the 701 system image that you see right here. That's the OneDrive, and this is the one that I baked ahead of time. That's got 761. It's also got some quick take stuff and some other little fun things that I've been playing around with. But let's go ahead and let's do this. Since we're gonna boot this up on an LC3, and an LC3 is absolutely not going to be able to deal with 701 just because it needs system enablers and things like that. And I really want to go to 761 just to play around with some things. So I've got my image set up already. You could also, in like Basilisk, if you wanted to, you could boot that legacy system software disk and do an install, whatever you want to do. But I've got this set up, so I'm just going to make a straight copy. But to make sure that everything goes okay, I am going to format, or erase rather, that disk image that you saw earlier. I'll call this Macintosh HD. And erase that. And now we have a blank image. Now remember, this is that disk 1 image that was on the SD card. What we're going to go ahead and do is we can copy some things over. Probably an easier way to do all this, but I like going the long way. All right, so there you go. That's everything from our 761 image that we had set up here. As you can see, 761 is now on there, looking great. All right, let's go ahead. We're going to reboot one time just to make sure. I have had issues where Basilisk has corrupted disks before if I don't do a restart before I shut down. So, but for sure, this will go ahead and work. We could even We could even do this in Basilisk, I guess. You just drag these in a different order and boot it. And again, not super exciting because it happened off screen, but we'll do it again. Hey, look, Macintosh HD. It's got all my stuff on it. Look at there. It's 761. So that looks great. So now at this point, we should be able to just go ahead and shut down our virtual machine. And we should be able to just go ahead and copy the, just take the SD card out of our SD card reader, put it into our SCSI to SD, and then just boot it on our physical Mac. So let's go do that. All right, so I have my handy dandy LC3 here. Let's go ahead, and here's my SCSI to SD 5.5. Let's go ahead and get this plugged in. We got the SD card in there, and let's boot this up. There's that. Keep in mind, this LC3 does have a few little quirks. So, first time we boot, if it decides that it's gonna slide off its cracker for a second, we'll just have to make do. So, let's go ahead and let's pan the camera up a little bit, though. I think on the first time it tries to boot, it'll reboot. Something I don't have a clock battery in here, so you know there's some little things to take into consideration. See, told ya. Oh, man. The joys of classic Mac ownership. Hey, there we go. All right, we are booting. Oh yeah, and by the way, you can see I don't have another hard drive in here, so. All right, so we're booting up here, and this will take a sec. It's a 5.5, so you know, again, it's kind of pokey, but I love it just for being able to like test things. So, you know, something like this is this project is going to be kind of handy for me, just for testing things out and breaking things and trying different stuff and just seeing what I can do on these machines. So, as you can see, we're booted. Let's make one more camera adjustment here. And as you can see, hey, we're booted up. It's that 7.6.1 image that I showed you just a second ago. But what you'll see now is you'll see that second partition that was that second disk 2 file that we saw just a second ago. And it is very handily titled partition 2. And as you can see in this, this folder, it says, this is the second partition. So, you know, that's handy to know. I don't think there's really anything else going on here other than we now have 2 partitions that are on our SCSI SD that we can mount inside an emulator without having to use DD or use Etcher to kind of like recapture the SD card, so that way that when we can make modifications and then rewrite the SD card, we can kind of do it all on the fly now, which is, again, huge time saver. So I just thought this was really neat, and I'm really hoping that Andrew kind of continues playing around with it, because I think the ideal, like, best application for this would be the ability to have two gigabyte partitions at a minimum, and like several of those, because that would be amazing. You could put like all of your diagnostics and all your test software and games and things like that on there. Then, and you know, time will tell. I think the project's only like a couple days old as of the making of this video, so it's it'll be something that we'll have to just keep an eye on. So anyway, as always, hey, thanks for checking in with me, and I hope you guys have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. And as I always say, Apple II forever.